I think I meant it's more polarized.
Yeah.
You don't have, it, the way you explained it, it seemed like there was a lot of different groups, and then they finally came together and, you had like 3 or 4 parties, and they all had different goals.
They did come to coalesce, in by the late 1850s. The Republicans were anti-slavery, they were in favor of prohibition, they were very concerned about the immigrants. Those are the 3 big issues. And they tended to agree on those issues. And then the Democratic Party had the opposite viewpoints. And of course, there would be some people in between, but it was, okay, put my political science hat on. This is what has happened at other times when these realignments have occurred. What happens is that the old parties simply try to manage the new issues. The old issues on which they were founded are no longer quite as relevant. The Bank of the United States and that sort of thing. And Jackson, whether you like Jackson, President Jackson or not. And then you have this realignment that occurs within 2 or 3 elections. And the parties are fairly homogeneous within themselves, but very much opposed to each other. But then as time goes on, these alignments become a little less and less relevant until the next realignment occurs. So there are various realignments. There were the 1830s, the Whigs were founded. Then the realignment in the 1850s. Then the realignment occurring again in the 1890s. And then in the 1928 to 36 period, there have been these different realignments when the parties do become fairly different from one another. And, but then over time, the old alignments break down. So that's what happened in the 1850s. The Whigs are no longer relevant. Okay. Yes, sir.
Don't you say back in those days, a lot more of the population was really politically inclined? A lot more than.
Oh, yes. Party was very important for them.
Literacy was high too.
And
literacy was a learning and all that.
Party was very important. To be an independent, there wasn't any, you weren't an independent. People were Democrats or Whigs, or they were Democrats or Republicans, especially in these just post-realignment periods. But now it's fashionable not to be associated with any party. Yes, John?
The Kansas, Nebraska Act was the end of the Whigs, basically.
Oh yes, that was.
That's because it was four.
Yeah, they couldn't manage, or decide which they wanted to be, pro-slavery.
They didn't have really a platform, did they, the Whigs on slavery? Not a strong.
Well, not a strong one. I can't remember exactly what theirs was. And well, it depends on whether we're talking about national, state, or local. But they were just trying to manage the factions and try to nominate candidates that would be acceptable to either side of their factions within the party. And
the anti-immigrants, they're known up and it's under the same tent as the advocates of temperance and anti-slavery. I mean, in modern terms, if you think of anti-slavery and temperance as being reform movements,
Yes.
if you think of anti-immigrant advocates as being sort of reaction reforms. So is there a logical connection, or did they just, is it marriage of convenience? I guess that's my first question.
Marriage of convenience, I think, because the know-nothings tended to be somewhat of, not the lowest status, but, you know, they were workers who were concerned with their jobs and so on, at least in part. Others, but there was also a commonality in that evangelical preachers and members of evangelical churches were concerned with temperance. They were anti-slavery in the North, and they were concerned with the different culture that the immigrants were bringing, that may include acceptance of liquor. And so there was some kind of overlap.
Second question is certainly by the mid-1850s, Benjamin Bates, many of the other large textile mills was a very wealthy and influential man. Is there any indication that he was involved in the political goings on in the 1850s? I know he was an advocate of temperance. I know he was involved with Endowment Bates College, which at the time was a free will Baptist seminary. I don't know what his stand was on slavery because he didn't eat cotton himself. So.
Did not run across any evidence of his being involved in local machinations. And the people in the 1850s, the people tended to be, who were involved in politics, tended to be from the older families of the community. So if the mill agents, or those who ran the various mills, only come in to local politics later on, by 1860, 61, 63. And that was kind of outside what I was looking at. I'm not aware of his being involved in these local things. He just, as long as, well, he was fairly tolerant of the taxes that the people were being, that were being levied.
But he was a Boston guy, though. He spent
He
most of his time
was
in Boston.
not here present. He wasn't here present.
I understand he wasn't often present, but we could have observed a lot.
Right. So, but I didn't the names of the people, the agents are not present in the newspapers anyway.
And finally, I'm sort of aware that in a lot of states, there were a few people who were prominent in forming the Republican Party, often newspaper publishers. In Maine, who were those people? Any other people? And
Oh, well, James Blaine was very important as a newspaper editor. Yes, the Lewiston Falls Journal was extremely in favor of temperance or prohibition, extremely against slavery. And the columns of the paper were devoted primarily to that point of view. And so it was stands out. So Nelson Bigley was very much involved. Yes,
About when was that requirement for the majority elections, changed to just plurality?
I'm not really.
Well, outside this
It was-
period, or?
Oh, it's well after this period, because Alonzo Garcelon was elected governor, even though he came in third in the popular vote in 1879. And then again in 1880, it was still in, I know it was in, I think it's probably sometime in the 1880s, 90s that it was eliminated.
You mentioned the Know Nothing Party. How well organized are they here?
They weren't very organized here because they never really ran their own candidates locally. They were very important in certain communities, some along the coast. I think that and maybe
I'd say
more-
Richmond, Augusta
Richmond.
region was another area.
And of course, they did in fact win the gubernatorial election in Massachusetts. But at least in Androscoggin County, I did not really see any organized know-nothing party. They would endorse candidates and that's their response. Okay, well, I don't know whether, okay, yes.
I was gonna ask about voting practices and districting and the like. We're so accustomed now to 20th century phenomenon of districts of equal size, the secret ballot, and so on. And it was a rather different world in the mid-19th century. And towns and cities and counties were being formed, and the allocation of voting strength among counties, districts for the legislature and so on, how much of that influenced this kind of behavior we're talking about now?
Well, all of this negotiating could occur before, during, and after conventions, as we saw in the 1854 case. I'm not sure whether you're, but there were various
Well, I'm thinking that,
practices that are quite different from today.
exactly my
Yeah.
point, that Danville was, I don't want to use the word absorbed, but
Annexed, absorbed, or
joined
Joined.
Auburn
joined Auburn.
a little later than
Kicking and
this.
screaming, yes.
And I heard reference to Poland, but there are currently a whole range of other towns in within Androscoggin County.
Yeah. Okay, well, Mechanic Falls was our most recent addition, in the 1890s, I believe it was.
And that was sort of from what my dad told me, because he grew up in Poland for a while, that Poland was tired of paying the taxes for the city folks, and so they let Mechanic Falls be a city by themselves, and so that Poland wouldn't have to pay all those high taxes.
Yeah, they were kind of a manufacturing center.
Yes.
Livermore Falls, it used to be Livermore and East Livermore, East Livermore, and then became Livermore Falls at some point, and then it was absorbed into Danville. Androscoggin County formed in 1854. They weren't quite as concerned with equal population districts, although Maine wasn't too bad, except that you had to form the districts within the county. You could not go across county boundaries. And so sometimes towns were joined together that had no common boundary or anything. Lewiston-Lisbon district in the 1840s. And those were all Lisbon people. I didn't say that then, but it isn't terribly relevant, but it's relevant to your question. They took turns so that Lisbon would be sure that they would have their representative for whatever their proportion of the time in the 1840s they were entitled to. Lewiston would have their proportion, and only Lewiston people would run in the other elections. You see what
Kind
I'm
of gentleman's
saying?
agreement thing.
Yeah. I don't know if there were gentlemen's agreements or whether it was statute.
Back when
I think it was
politics,
by statute. I think they had it by statute, that they would, the legislature would establish the districts, and in that same statute would indicate what percentage of the time, which elections would be Lewiston elections and which one would be Lisbon elections. But both towns would vote every year. So there are all those kinds of practices. There were no secret ballots. You're okay, back up. The parties provided you with ballots or tickets. You would have the list of names on your Quig ticket handed to you by the party people who were patrolling the polls. And it would be pretty obvious, given the color of the paper and so forth, with whom you were voting. Or, if you wanted to split your ticket, the fact that you were splitting your ticket would become obvious. And so the secret or so-called Australian ballots didn't occur until the 1890s. And so your voting was quite a public affair.
Well, at one point, perhaps earlier, the selection of a representative to the state legislature was voted on at town meeting,
Yes.
open to all, and so people's vote was quite visible.
Yes. Yes, as I said, these were held in town meetings. You had to appear at a certain time and place and cast your ballots. It wasn't something you did over several hours at your convenience. You've been very patient, and so I appreciate your questions and your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doug. And again, I will extend an invitation to attend Saturday's tour of Mount Hope Cemetery, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. At the cemetery, rain or shine, no admission, it's free. And also next month, on the 27th of November, Winston Drayton will show copies of 16mm films used to promote the state of Maine between 1930 and 1965. And the films were made by his father, Everett Drayton, while he was executive director of the Maine Development Commission. So sounds like an interesting program coming up next month. And thank you all for attending tonight. Refreshments are in the stairwell.
Next to the